Welcome to Bunny Trails, a whimsical adventure of idioms and other turns of phrase. I'm Shauna Harrison.
And I'm Dan Pugh. Each week, we take an idiom or other turn of phrase and try to tell the story from its entry into the English language to how it's used today. And just a quick note of apologies, I am coming back from having lost my voice, so it's a little raspier than usual. Have you ever been handed a dish, just the right amount of steam rising off of it, and someone says to you, "Trust me, it's good." You eye the plate, wondering if their promise holds any weight. You can't just take their word for it. You've got to take that first bite. You've got to let the flavors hit your senses before you know whether they've been honest or they're selling you a load of crap, because the proof is in the pudding. And according to the Oxford English Dictionary, the proof is in the pudding means, quote, that which puts something to the test, or in later use, proves a fact or statement, end quote. So I have to admit, this one has always confused me, but there are a few points we need to clear up. First, the phrase originated as, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
This is what I was always wondering is like, is the proof is in the pudding, is that like the pudding exists? Or is it that like you get to, like you eat it? I always wondered about this one too.
Yeah. And this definitely helps out knowing that the phrase originated as the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And here's an example from William Camden's Remains Concerning Britain, which was dated 1605. This is listed in the Proverbs section, meaning it was already a proverb in 1605. This is just the first time I could find it in print. It's given without definition. Quote, all of the proof of a pudding is in the eating, end quote.
Okay.
So to me at least, this makes a bit more sense. The evidence of a pudding's outcome comes from eating it. Though in this case, the word proof is actually an older usage of proof than what we tend to mean today. Here is the definition from the Oxford English Dictionary. Quote, the action or an act of testing or making trial of something, end quote. Though honestly, the outcome doesn't really change much from the way we use the word proof today. It's really more of a tense issue. So we often use proof as the outcome of a test, but proof historically, as in this case, meant the testing process itself. So we're using the same word to mean the process of testing it as we are the outcome of said test. The nice thing about this idiom is it means the same thing whether you're talking about the testing or the outcome of the test. So it's largely irrelevant, which is why this use of the word proof is a distinction without too much of a difference when we are talking specifically about this idiom.
I think if I were like trying to be really, maybe semantic about it and rephrase it in today's terms, I might say like the test, of the pudding is eating it or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Interesting.
I think it could go either way, so it's largely whatever.
It's such a minor difference that it's, or not really changing the meaning, I guess.
Right, exactly. So here's the other thing that you need to know about this phrase, and that is you may be thinking of pudding as a sweet treat, especially if you are from the United States or, some of this area. But there are other puddings, as our Scottish, Irish, and British friends would know. And so in 1605, they were definitely talking about a savory dish. Here's an excerpt from a Mental Floss article talking about savory puddings. Quote, during those centuries, pudding wasn't the gloopy dessert that Americans eat today. It was a hodgepodge of minced meats, spices, cereal, and sometimes blood, all crammed into a sausage-like animal casing and steamed or boiled. Since preservative techniques were rudimentary and food regulatory agencies didn't exist, there was always a chance that a meat dish could sicken or even kill you, end quote. So this adds a lot more context to proof of the quality of the pudding being in the eating of said pudding, plus the health and or survival of the eater, right?
That's terrible. It's like you're not going to know if it's good or good
until someone eats it.
Until you've eaten it.
So that's a lot more context now. It's not just that the proof of the pudding is in the eating, but it's that it's really important to know what the outcome of this pudding is first, or at least according to the Mental Floss article as they make it out to sound. But for proof of the pudding is in the eating, it did not take long for it to shorten, like in John Phillips' 1687 translation of the history of the most renowned Don Quixote of Mancha and his trusty squire, Sancho Panza. So in this case, by Cervantes, and so in this case, here's the quote. This is from the translation. Quote, "Stick to thy principles, Sancho," quoth Don Quixote. "The proof of the pudding's at hand. For, if I mistake not, I have a government just now in my eye." End quote. And to be clear, this is nothing like the phrase that was in the original work. So this usage was wholly on Mr. Phillips's translation of Cervantes' work, not something Cervantes would have said.
He just like added something modernly colloquial to,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly,
Fair.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's an example out of the Monthly Review or Literary Journal. This is volume 8, and it was the May to August of 1792 edition. Quote, "Yes, to use such a phrase, I would say, the proof of the pudding is the eating, and that proof or test my readers shall soon have, whereby fairly and honestly and truly to judge for themselves." End quote.
Okay.
That seems pretty straightforward. We're seeing it in the end of the 1700s here being used much in that way that we see it used in 1687, and the way that we understand it was likely used, although we didn't have the definition for it in the early 1600s. We look at 1805, and here is the New Hampshire Gazette out of USA, and it's dated February 19th of 1805. Quote, "The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Ah, surely it is. But what is better, the proof of the money is in receiving it. Now whose is the lucky lottery office?" End quote.
Nice.
So this one, they're using that phrase, and they're putting the point of the proof of the pudding's in the eating, right? And so they're using the longer version. So we're still seeing both of them being used contemporaneously, but we also see them define it a little differently with, well, it's the proof of the money is in receiving it, right? So that's the outcome in this case, and we're obviously talking about the outcome here, not the testing process itself. Although the idiom could be used either way, but in this case, the outcome of the proof of the money is the fact it exists because I have it. We have it. We've been received.
Like, yeah, we know. That's awesome.
Yeah. This next one is out of the Guthrie Daily Leader out of Oklahoma, USA, and it's dated November 9th, 1895. This one takes the phrase and I think mashes it together with another phrase that I'm not familiar with. It's a full-page advertisement from Brooks' Boston store. Here is part of the advertisement. Quote, "We have brought back and opened up at the old stand the largest, finest, and best stock of dry goods and clothing ever brought to Guthrie, and are positively in position to sell you goods at one half the price you will have to pay elsewhere in the city. The proof of the pudding is to chew the string, so we will respectfully invite one and all to come and imagine this great stock." End quote.
I don't think I want to do that.
You don't want to chew the string?
No.
So I could not find anything about chew the string as a phrase in any of our usual references. The proof of the pudding part is clearly being used in the historical sense. But if any of you listeners have heard chew the string before or have any sort of evidence for it that we might be able to jump into a starting point of some sort, that would be awesome. Please hit us up with that, bunnytrailspod@gmail.com, or hit us up on the Patreon, because I would love to learn more about this. The Oxford English Dictionary doesn't have it, and I didn't see it in any of our usual places that we were checking. So who knows? But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just, it could be a regional thing that, I haven't just found yet.
Yeah, it sounds interesting and gross. I don't know. You never know.
Right. I don't want to speculate too much on what it could be, because when I'm trying to discover more about a new phrase, any speculation I do ahead of time just puts some biases in my head. So I like to try and go into it with as open a mind as possible. So I don't want to speculate on what chew the string could mean here. But if anyone knows or has heard this before, can shed some light, maybe push us in a direction, I'd love it. All right, this next one is an advertisement in the Brownsville Herald out of Texas, USA, and it's dated January 19th, 1936. It identifies a thank you letter from the owner of the Star Electric Company, R.W. Pitts, to the newspaper regarding the effectiveness of advertising in the paper. Quote, "Thank you, Mr. Pitts. Again, the proof of the pudding is proven in the eating. Advertising pays." End quote.
Okay.
So that's nice and easy. I mean, we're highlighting it. It's kind of the longer version of the phrase, but it's just shifted just a little bit so that they can say they're showing here, they're meaning both of it. The proof, the testing of the pudding gets proven with the outcome of the eating.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's kind of, with proof and proven both in here. They're highlighting both components of it. You've got the testing process and the evidence right here in the letter from the Star Electric Company, which basically talked about how much more business they've picked up based on the advertisements they ran in their newspaper, and basically that because they had not been in that area before, it was the only advertising they had done, and they got a lot of people signing up because of the advert they had done in Brownsville, Texas.
Gotcha.
All right, let's end this half of the show with a 1945 novel by Phoebe Atwood Taylor. Proof of the Pudding is the 21st of 24 books in the A.Z. Mayo Cape Cod Mystery Series, which ran from 1931 to 1951. Here's the synopsis from the front and back flaps of the book cover. Quote, "The beach was strewn with debris. All that the hurricane had left of the summer colony at Pogneck was a lot of drunken walls, odd chimneys, and latticed porches quite unattached to anything else. Salvagers were poking among the wreckage near the inlet, and A.Z. Mayo decided to join them and hunt up the blinds blown off his house. And then he found the body. He knew at once that the girl had been murdered, though the obvious intent was to have the death seem an accident. A trifling circumstance betrayed by the plan, the simple fact that Say was a thrifty Cape Codder who never let anything go to waste. Later, certain other trifles relating to the dead girl, or those who knew her, took on sinister significance. The rosebud plate, the lobster pot buoy, the square plum pudding. Cousin Janine and Lieutenant Hanson of the state police offered lots of interference, but did come up with some right answers to the wrong questions. But Zanies, the Siamese cat, was really responsible for clinching the case in the end. Freshly as paint is this smoothly written yarn that brings Phoebe Atwood Taylor in top form with her brightest dialogue, a grand set of lively characters, and the authentic atmosphere of storm-torn Cape Cod." End quote.
Okay.
So synopses obviously looked a little different back then. This is it's built off of the fact that you're probably not reading the 21st of these 24 books unless you are already familiar with A.Z. Mayo and his kind of cozy mystery type look. So there's a lot to this. And actually, this was a really fascinating read for me. So we're going to learn more about Miss Taylor and her works, including Mr. Mayo, known as the Codfish Sherlock, in our behind the scenes episode, which airs every Friday on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/bunnytrailspod. And with that, it is time to move to our more modern uses. But first, we need to say thank you to our sponsors.
This episode is sponsored by our amazing patrons on Patreon. And the cool thing about Patreon is it is 100% free to join the community. We have new things every weekday on the feeds. On Mondays, we have a conversation about what movies, shows, books, podcasts, and whatever else everyone is enjoying. Tuesdays see early access to the week's podcast. Wednesdays have all the links, books, songs, and other content mentioned in the week's episode. Thursday has patrons-only polls, and Fridays are our lightly edited behind-the-scenes video featuring all the cut content, goofs, and bonus facts you could imagine.
We've got some other pretty cool stuff too, like original digital artwork, once a month, made by Shauna, and direct access to talk with us. No algorithms getting in the way of what we see or don't see. Plus, you can get awesome name recognition like Pat Rowe does every episode. And our top spot is currently occupied by the amazing Mary Halsig Lopez. You can join the Bunny Trails community for free at Bunny Trails Pod on Patreon.
That's patreon.com/bunnytrailspod.
We are going to start our modern uses in 1975. That is the year the music group Proof of the Pudding was founded. Here's a little about the SSAA Jazz Group, meaning it has 2 distinct soprano sections and 2 distinct alto sections. Quote, Proof of the Pudding was founded in 1975 as Yale's first jazz and swing a cappella group. In the 50 years since then, we've expanded our repertoire and enjoy singing everything from retro jazz standards to new favorites like Lord and Lake Street Drive. Known for our love of music past and present and our incredible sisterhood, Proof loves to show audiences from San Francisco to Seoul that, when it comes to the talent of an SSAA jazz group, the proof really is in the pudding. End quote.
Very fun and so very Ivy League.
Yes, it is. So yes, this is Yale's kind of a SSAA group, obviously, but like kind of their jazz, ladies jazz group. It's a you can find more about it at yaleproofofthepudding.com, and that's where that About Me section came from. So,
I love
and
it.
we'll of course link to it on our Patreon on the website as well. Proof of the Pudding by Nuttin' Nice is an R&B song off the 1993 album Down for Whatever. 4 is the number 4, and whatever is whatever with EVA at the end instead of EVER. In this song, the singer says she can love you, and the proof of her love is in the physical expression. Here are the lyrics that start the chorus. Quote, The proof is in the pudding. Come and get it. You know you want my love. Gonna lay that lovin' on you, baby. Whoa. End quote.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it's a very mid '90s, like early to mid '90s R&B style song. You can catch it on YouTube. We'll link to it again as well as with all of these. But I thought it was it was very reminiscent of the time.
Yeah.
I think this one may not have actually. So it was on the album, obviously, but I think it was set to be a single and never got released in that format. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Since 2004, the godfather of shock rock, Alice Cooper himself, has hosted his annual Proof is in the Pudding music competition. It serves to showcase musical talent of all genres, and it is aptly named as the contest gives teens a chance to prove that they have the talent they think they have. The winner of the very first competition was none other than Jordan Sparks, who then went on to win American Idol in 2007 and has been nominated for 2 Grammy Awards. So one might say that Alice Cooper's Proof is in the Pudding's proof is in the pudding. I certainly won't say that again, though. That was difficult and confusing. But one might, if you wanted.
You could.
One could. This year's competition is actually currently underway at the time of recording.
Awesome.
Proof is in the Pudding by Parliament is a song off the 2018 album Medicaid Fraud Dog. Dog with 2 G's in this case. This album was the first in 38 years by the George Clinton-led band. Here are some of the lyrics of the spoken word part. Quote, And I go nuts for your Choco Latte Almond Roca. The proof is in the pudding. Evidently, tapioca. End quote.
Wow.
The song, as with the whole album, is mocking the healthcare system in the United States. I'm not quite sure what to make of these lyrics, but to be honest, the song wasn't well mixed, and it was difficult to understand. I have a form of hearing loss that makes it difficult for me to pick out the spoken word piece when the instruments that are playing and the background music is too loud and kind of overbearing on them. And so the mixing, most of the time, professional mixing is good about making sure that you can hear the lyrics as well, but sometimes it's not. And this one just wasn't very good. It was really difficult to understand. And I'm clearly not the only one who had trouble because I actually couldn't find the lyrics on any of the usual corners of the internet. All of them said lyrics missing. And so I basically had to go sit and listen. And it was really when there was the intentional spoken word part that I was able to hear what they were saying and just be able to pull out at least a part where, they at least used the phrase innocence.
Right.
The Proof of the Pudding is a 2022 Dutch language film. The trailer is available on Vimeo, and we'll link to it. Here's the synopsis from the Vimeo description. Quote, Laureate architect Herman Hertzberger is still going strong at 90. His most iconic building, Centraal Beheer in Apeldoorn from 1972, will undergo a transformation from an abandoned office building into contemporary, sustainable spaces for housing, offices, and leisure. Hertzberger calls this transformation the proof of the pudding, as his structuralist ideals from the 60s and 70s intended buildings to be flexible and sustainable. But is the present day still receptive to his vision? What prevails? Profitable square meters or space for people? In this film portrait, we get to know Hertzberger as a passionate, humoristic, and modest man whose vision on what architecture means for people and society is valuable to this day. End quote. I love the idea of Mr. Hertzberger being able to put his supposedly flexible designs to the test some 50 or 60 years later. This is like the epitome of a Swansong, where you can showcase, he's 90 now, and he gets to showcase how you meant for your work to be able to be updated, to be kept with the times. And now he gets to see the culmination of that work some 50 or 60 years later. So it is a great example of the idiomatic usage of this phrase of he put it to the test 50 or 60 years ago in the building, and now with this transformation that he's helping to oversee, he gets to put it to the test again to see if the outcome holds long term. And so I think
that's awesome.
This is just a phenomenal usage of the phrasing for this, but also just what a really fascinating concept, I think, to be able to see.
And that's some serious bravery, I think, in a way, to
Yeah, because you obviously have to have some level of confidence, but right. You're in your 90s now, and what happens if it doesn't work? And it's do you just go to your, the last however long of your life, your Swansong here, and know that you failed?
Yeah, that would be tough. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, but that's the fear of failure talking. So obviously this guy doesn't have that or was able to overcome that to really put it to the test, which is really cool, I think.
I agree.
The Proof of the Pudding by Rosemary Schrager is a 2023 cozy mystery book, the second in the Prudence Bulstrode series. The author, a British chef, has a number of books including this series and several cookbooks. Here's the synopsis of this one from the publisher. Quote, preparing a midwinter's feast for all 100 residents of the little Yorkshire village of Scrafton Busk is exactly the kind of challenge Prudence Bulstrode adores. A chance to show off her muffin-topped winter stew, lamb shank hot pot, and Scarborough woof, and of course her famous figgy pudding, is just the thing to shake off the winter blues. But on the night of the feast, local vagabond Terry Chandler is found dead, his body entombed in the pristine snowman standing pride of the place on the village green. Who could have wanted Chandler dead? Why would they stow his body in such strange circumstances? And what is the meaning of his last enigmatic message directing his brother to Mystery Hills, a place which no one has ever heard? Crime and cookery continue to collide as Prudence and her granddaughter Suki get drawn into another mystifying murder. End quote.
Okay, I love that, it's this lady and her granddaughter because a lot of times, cozy mysteries also involve some sort of a love story or something, even if it's a lighthearted romance. Whether she does have a love interest, or not, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. I really do like cozy mysteries. I grew up watching Murder, She Wrote, which was kind of my first introduction to the cozy mystery genre, though I'm not sure they really called it that at the time. I enjoy the fun of the mysteries, but it doesn't have the blood and the guts and the sex that oftentimes accompany mystery stories. There's usually romance of some sort, like you said, but, it's not, they gloss over the blood and the gore and, the overt sexual stuff is kind of the fade to black scene or whatever,
Yeah, so it's more about character interactions and the story itself than it is.
And I think that when you're telling that, at least what I've seen from a lot of Tanya Kappas and her style of cozy mystery, there's a lot of wordplay, and we see this here from Rosemary Schrager as well. Just in the synopsis, there's a lot of wordplay that happens here. There's a lot of fun piece. Crime and cookery continue to collide. They're just the illusion. There, or that's it's just a lot of fun. So.
It really is, and I enjoy that. It's very clever writing, and it's fun to read.
Yeah. Well, next up is Proof is in the Pudding by Dawn Tripp, a song off the 2023 album Fireworks. While the song doesn't use the phrase, the title captures the concept of learning life through trial and error, and how the person you are now is because of the experiences you've had. Here are some of the lyrics. Quote, truthfully, no truthfully, what else could you do to me? I washed my mama pawn all of her jewelry, just so she could buy food to eat. You know who wins if it's you or me. I ain't half the sane as I used to be. You damn right I've been losing sleep. I've been on a 3-year losing streak. But I ain't lost a step. I was in too deep, then I caught my breath. They say that experience is the best teacher. In that case, I guess I taught myself. End quote.
Nice.
Yeah, that was literally the only section I could grab that didn't have some pretty overt curse words in it.
Oh,
So
right.
if you go and listen to it, just, explicit content. But I thought, this section, though, really captures pretty well the concept of you've got to learn through trial and error, and, you're becoming the person you are because of your experiences. Your proof of who you are is in the pudding, in this case, your life.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All right, one more. And this is a catering company called Proof of the Pudding. They are based in Atlanta, Georgia, and now work all over the United States. Here is their About Me from the website. Quote, founded in 1979, Proof of the Pudding began as a local Atlanta caterer. Since then, we've evolved into an award-winning company excelling in catering, events, and hospitality. Our remarkable journey includes serving clients across local, regional, and national levels, underscored by a rich timeline of growth and dynamic partnerships. This snapshot is just a glimpse of clients we've worked with. We have tons more amazing partnerships. Just look around our website. The proof truly is in the pudding. End quote. And then they have a whole list of different groups that they've worked with. It's kind of like a curated showcase. It's a really nice art style on there of different groups they've worked with from so obviously they're in Atlanta. So they worked with Jimmy Carter's presidency and I think some of the presidential library stuff and the Atlanta Olympics and all these different things
Wow.
that would have come up for things that would have been local to Georgia at the time, and then as they expanded out, all of these other impressive client list, right?
That's really, really impressive. That's a lot of.
Yeah. Well, in the end, with the concept of the proof truly is in the pudding, and I think that's what I love about this phrase. I like the idea that the proof of the pudding is in the eating of the pudding. Firstly, because I like pudding, both the dessert kind and the sausage kind. And second, because I like the idea that the outcome determines if something was worth it, at least when it comes to products. I feel like Merriam-Webster's sums it up nicely with this statement about the proof is in the pudding and its variants. Quote, generally, the expressions are used to say that the real worth, success, or effectiveness of something can only be determined by putting it to the test, by trying or using it. Appearances and promises aside, just as the best test of a pudding is to eat it, end quote. And frankly, in a world full of myths, dis, and malinformation, biased opinions, and intentionally misleading advertisements, I love knowing that the proof of my products indeed are in the pudding. And that's about all we have for today. If you have any thoughts on the show or pop culture references we should have included, reach out to us on our Patreon, patreon.com/bunnytrailspod, or comment on our website, bunnytrailspod.com.
It's poll time. Recently, we asked our patrons, what is your favorite moon phase? The full moon was the far and away winner, followed by the new moon and waxing waning gibbous. Mary said, quote, I really just love looking at the moon in any phase, but the full moon, especially at harvest, is just magical, end quote. Dustin added, quote, full moons are great to take the dog out on a walk. It is night, but so light and I can see so much, end quote.
I love summer nights under a big, bright full moon. Whether it's camping, sitting on the porch, or fishing on the lake or river, the full moon makes it feel like I've stolen a little more light out of the day. JGP went in a different direction. Quote, I've always liked crescent moons, since they're what every kid will ever draw when they have to draw the night sky. So whenever I see one, I can't help but think of that and think it's charming and cute. End quote. Emily agrees, quote, crescent moons are my favorite, end quote. So I really like that take that JGP and Emily have on this, with that idea of like, and I think about it, yeah, as a kid, I could draw a circle to make the moon, but if I wanted the night sky, I would draw a crescent moon because then it's very clear that what I've drawn is the
Right.
moon. And I'm not, unlike Shauna, I am not artistically blessed. So in that kind of a way, so I have to make my things be very clear of what they are because I don't have the I just don't have the understanding, I think, to be able to make the moon, full moon, look like the full moon and not just like a really misshapen circle that I've put into the sky, right? So this really, I never thought about it like that, but reading JGP's piece on there and seeing Emily agree, I thought, wow, yeah, okay, that's really cool. That's a really good take on that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, if I were going to quickly like represent the moon, it would be a crescent.
Right. Yeah.
Love that. Well, Jan added, quote, I'm a fan of the new moon. I live out in the country away from most light pollution. When we turn off our outdoor lights and the moon isn't bright in the sky, we can see so many stars, end quote. I agree, Jan. Being able to see so many more stars in the sky is really incredible. Like, I love those nights, and sometimes I can even see the Milky Way, and it's pretty awesome to see that. I love a full moon, and I love when it's a crescent, but you can make out the outline of the rest of the moon. It just feels like sort of mystical, which is also how I feel about the circle that is sometimes seen around the moon. It's called a lunar halo. It's more about the weather than the phase of the moon, but it looks really cool. Well, as a reminder, our silly polls mean absolutely nothing and are not scientifically valid, and patrons of all levels, including our free tiers, can take part. Head over to patreon.com/bunnytrailspod to take this week's poll. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week. Until then, remember,
Words belong to their users.